If I answer for you, that's going to end up destroying the Quran. So I want you to try to find a way to avoid this dilemma. I'm giving you a chance.
Welcome back to the channel. In today's intense and eye-opening debate, Christian apologist Sam Shamoun takes on not one, not two, but three Muslim debaters in a showdown that exposes a massive error in the Quran. Sam, known for his sharp intellect and deep knowledge of both Christian and Islamic texts, presents a powerful argument that leaves all three Muslim debaters silent. As the debate unfolds, Sam raises a critical issue in the Quran that they struggle to refute, forcing them into a corner with no answers. Can these three Muslim debaters hold their ground, or will Sam's well-researched points leave them speechless? This is a debate you won't want to miss.
You understand what the argument is?
No, I just got here, bro. My bad.
What? We're talking about Islamic dilemma, dude.
There's no Islamic dilemma, my brother.
Okay, we're going to show you, my sister. You're going to have an attitude, I'm going to talk down to you. Respect yourself.
All right, let's do it.
Islamic dilemma.
I've never heard of an Islamic dilemma.
What's the Islamic dilemma that I'm presenting?
The Quran affirms the Bible?
Yes. Do you know what my arguments are?
I don't know.
So you came up here being an ummi, not knowing what the arguments are? You see that verse on the screen, chapter 3, verse 55? It says that your God promised Isa that he would make those who follow him superior to those who reject faith to the day of resurrection. So we got that, right?
Yep.
And then in 61:14, it says, O you who believe, be ye helpers of Allah, as said Jesus, the son of Mary, to the disciples, who will be my helpers to the work of Allah? Said the disciples, we are Allah's helpers. Then a portion of the children of Israel believed, and a portion disbelieved, but we gave power to those who believed against their enemies, and they became the ones that prevailed. So these two verses say Allah kept his promise. The true followers of Jesus prevailed over against the disbelievers, and then his followers will be superior till the day of resurrection. So who were these followers of Jesus in the first century that prevailed?
His disciples?
What are their names?
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Are you sure you want to say that? I'm confused. You agree with that?
No, I'm saying that from so you can understand it. Like his.
No, I want to understand if the Quran is true, you believe it is, that means this happened. So if this happened, that means you have to now answer the question historically. Then who are these followers? What did they do? How did they become dominant? You got to answer the question, buddy.
Why can't it just be everyone that came after Jesus that followed him?
No, that's actually my point. Who are they that came after him?
In this context, I would say it's referring to all of the Muslims that came after him.
No, it's referring to the time of Jesus. It says from the time Jesus went to heaven, when Allah took him, they became victorious. So who were they?
You talking about the first verse?
Both of them combined, because Jesus is talking to the disciples. Jesus, son of Mary, to the disciples, who will be my helpers? Said the disciples, we are Allah's helpers. Then a portion of the children of Israel believed, and a portion disbelieved, but we gave power to those who believed against their enemies. They became the ones that prevailed. So it's talking about those disciples. They conquered, they prevailed, and they will remain superior till the day of resurrection. Who are they?
Okay, that's a good question. I would probably say that it would be like the disciples of Jesus.
Yeah, but I want to know who they are. You can't just tell me, okay, who are they? What did they do? What were their names? How did they win out?
And why is that relevant?
You want me to send you out of here, buddy? Because this Quran is talking to Jews and Christians and telling Jews and Christians, you know Jesus' disciples? Yeah, we know who they are. They won out. What do you mean, how's it relevant? Because if the Quran is true, and this message is not just for you Muslims, it's for the Jews and Christians, and then the Quran says to the Christians, hey, guess what? You know the followers of Jesus, his very own disciples, they won, they were victorious, and those followers will remain victorious to the day of resurrection. So the Christian will say, all right, well then historically, here are the disciples of Jesus. We know who their names are. We know what their message was. But if I answer for you, that's going to end up destroying the Quran. So I want you to try to find a way to avoid this dilemma. I'm giving you a chance.
You raise a fair point, Sam. I can't answer this question without going to your Bible.
Well, I'm going to go to your scholars, Sirat Rasulullah. Ibn Hisham took Sirat Rasulullah and he omitted stuff that he did not like. He thought it was weak or damaging to Muhammad, but he kept this intact. God has sent me, this is Muhammad speaking, to all men. So take a message from me, God have mercy on you. Do not hang back from me as the disciples hung back from Jesus, son of Mary. They asked how they hung back, and he said, he called them to a task similar to that which I have called you. Those who had to go a short journey were pleased and accepted. Those who had a long journey before them were displeased and refused to go. And Jesus complained of them to God. T means Tabari. From that very night, every one of them was able to speak the language of the people to whom he was sent. T again means Tabari. Said, this is a thing that God has determined that you should do So go. Now here are their names. Those whom Jesus, son of Mary, sent, both disciples and those who came after them, meaning his Sahaba and the Tabi'in. In the land were Peter, the disciple, and Paul with him. Paul belonged to the followers, was not a disciple, meaning he was a Tabi, because he didn't walk with Jesus, to Rome. Peter and Paul were sent out, and these are the ones that became victorious. Andrew and Matthew to the land of the cannibals. Thomas to the land of Babel, which is the land of the east. Philip to Carthage, which is Africa. John to Ephesus, the city of the young men of the cave. James to Jerusalem, which is Aliyah, the city of the sanctuary. Bartholomew to Arabia, which is the land of Hijaz. So according to your own Muslim sources, one of Jesus' followers actually reached the Hijaz and preached the gospel there before Muhammad showed up. Simon to the land of the Berbers. Judah, who was not one of the disciples, was put in place of Judas. So now you got a problem, buddy. Peter and Paul were among the followers that Allah empowered to prevail and conquer, and they went to Rome. But Peter and Paul, their message wasn't Islam. Can you reconcile that for me? Reconcile it for me, buddy, because we know who Peter and Paul are, because we have the documents that they wrote, preserved by the Christians, because the promise of the Quran, in case you missed it, not only they would be victorious, I will make those who follow thee superior to those who reject faith to the day of resurrection, meaning everyone else who follows them and believes their message, they would be victorious till the day of resurrection. That means if I believe your Quran, I have to believe not only Peter and Paul, Thomas and Matthew, but those whom they taught, their followers, they too, if they believe their message, they would be uppermost, and so on and so on and so forth. Well, we have their writings preserved by their followers, and it's the books of the New Testament, and that doesn't agree with Islam. So can you reconcile this dilemma for me?
What is it that you showed about Paul and Peter that was a hadith or a tafsir?
What I showed you was from Sirat Rasulullah, the oldest Sirah on the life of your prophet, that was written around 750 AD. Your hadith collection come later, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my point is, if I go with your oldest Sirah, edited by Ibn Hisham, because this is what I need you to listen. Ibn Hisham comes 830 AD, according to Muslim tradition. Whether it's true or not, we don't know. He then took Sirat Rasulullah and he omitted material from it he did not like. And yet, this he kept in, meaning this met the criterion for authenticity. But he's not the only one. Even Tabari quotes this. 6114, he quotes this from Ibn Ishaq, meaning they all agreed this is authentic. And they use it to show how Allah kept his promise in 6114.
No, I'm not seeing that. They're saying that
Who cares you don't see it, man? Who are the followers then? Give me their names. No one cares what you see. You want to be blind? That's between you and God.
No, because you said that this is authentic, but the seerah that you showed with Peter and Paul is from Christian sources.
What other sources can you appeal to show me who the followers are? Hello? Didn't you just say you needed to go to my Bible to answer the question? So when they went to my Bible, now they're wrong. You're being a hypocrite.
Okay, so let's say I agree that Peter was one of them. I'm not going to say anything about Paul, but let's say I
That
agree
means
Peter
Muhammad
was
is an antichrist.
How is Muhammad an antichrist? Just
Because Peter did not preach Islam.
Peter preached monotheism, yes or no?
What's monotheism? He didn't preach Tawheed. He didn't preach the lie of Tawheed.
Did he preach monotheism?
Not your monotheism. What you're not getting.
You cannot prove that.
You want to bet from the documents that were preserved by those who dominated. You still don't get it.
I'm waiting
Show
for
me what Peter preached.
Look, the statement being made here is the followers.
Show me what Peter preached. Don't go on tangents and waste our time, because according to your Quran, the disciples of Jesus prevailed. That includes Peter. What did he preach? Point it out to me.
Preached monotheism, bro.
Where? Give me the source.
Belief in one God.
Where? Give me the source. How do you know what Peter preached? Give me his source.
Because the Quran says so.
No, the Quran doesn't tell you Peter. You don't even know who Peter is if it wasn't for these sources that you're appealing to. How do you know Peter is one of the disciples? Where does the Quran say that?
According to the Quran, can we agree that Jesus and his disciples preached monotheism?
Who are the disciples?
Whoever they were, can we agree that they preached
No, we can't agree until you tell me who they are, because that proves the Quran is a lie.
Okay, let's say, I'll go back and look at all this, but let's say I renounce Islam.
Yep.
How would I then I don't. There's a specific verb for it, but how do I essentially not worry about any of contradictions or any problems in the Bible? Like, for example, I mean, I've seen that Paul has an issue with, let's say, Peter, James, and
No, actually, that's not true. See, this is what happens when you go by secondhand information. If you had read Galatians chapter 1 and 2, Paul did not say he had a problem with James and Peter. In fact, he said Peter, James, and John, the pillars, confirmed his apostleship and gave him the right hand of fellowship. So this is what happens when you don't read the Bible and go by Muslims attacking Paul. And by the way, did they tell you, the Muslims, that some of the greatest Muslim scholars confirmed that Paul was a legitimate messenger empowered by Allah to spread the true message of Jesus?
I've seen a singular text document from an unnarrated source. So from what I just
Kathir is unnarrated?
From what I've seen, it comes from an anonymous author before that.
Ibn Kathir is anonymous. Ibn Ishaq is anonymous. Qurtubi is anonymous. Who lied to you, man? Here, let me show you. They're lying to you. See, this is what happens when you trust what you read online. Here, I'm going to show it to you. So, according to them, Ibn Ishaq is anonymous. Lie. Ibn Kathir is anonymous. Lie. Tabari, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, these are their big names. They lied to you. Here's the article. They lied to you. And if you want to, Jay, I'm sending in private chat so you can use it. It's all in private chat there. They lied to you. Show them the article. That's what you get by trusting. If you haven't learned anything by now, the Muslims online, I'm not talking about all Muslims. I'm not talking about most Muslims. Decent people don't even know their religion. I'm talking about the online dawagandas, Uthman and sneakers. They're liars. You can't trust them. You can't. That's why they slander, they attack, and want you to come to channels and talk over you and cut off the mic.
Yep.
They're liars, Yusuf. See, and I'll tell you why they're liars. This is the article. Save it, Yusuf. You're going to see it's not anonymous. It's Ibn Ishaq. It's Al-Qurtubi. It's Tabari. It's Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. It's Ibn Kathir, and on and on and on and on. It's there.
Look at all of these sources. All of these.
And then you go see the quotations. So you scroll down. You're going to show the scroll. That's right. They're lying to you, man. Right there. There it is. You can read it. But here, let me tell you the difference between us and them. When I lie and deceive, I'm dishonoring Jesus, because Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. But when Muslims lie and deceive, they're following Allah, because one of the names attributed to Allah is Khairun Makirin, the best of all deceivers. Because the word makir means to connive, to trick, to deceive. Don't let them lie to you. So the kind of God you serve will impact the kind of person you are. So if Allah is a deceiver and deceives people, what do you think his followers are going to be? Men of integrity? When they truly follow the religion. Let alone if I talk about Muhammad's example, which we'll do in another time. But it's time for you to come home. Because if you're honest, I want you to just do me one favor. Read about Jesus in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Just read about him. Read his teachings, his love miracles, and contrast that with Muhammad and what Muhammad did. If you don't throw up from reading about what Muhammad did and fall in love with Jesus, seeing how beautiful he is, then you're really hard. But go read the articles and come back when I'm on live or he's live, because we'd like to talk to you especially.
Gosh, I mean, I would have to go into this whole thing with Paul and who.
It's not Paul, it's John.
Oh, you're saying this is in John?
Revelation 1:17-18 is John.
Okay.
Be that as it may, your Quran confirms that Paul must be a true apostle or Islam is false.
Or Islam is false. I mean, if you judge the Quran based on what is in the Bible, then I see your point.
No, I'm judging the Quran by its promise to Allah's disciples. Chapter 3, verse 55, 61:14, and what Islamic scholars said about those passages. 3:55, Allah promised Isa, he goes, Isa, I will cause you to die and then raise you to myself, and I'll make those who believe in you uppermost, superior to those who disbelieve, till the day of resurrection. 3:55.
And I think the way that the Muslims interpret that is his message.
No, because I'm going to show you how the Muslims interpret. Qurtubi and Ibn Ishaq said that the true followers of Jesus dominated and were given victory to spread the message. But even we go with that. Let's go with your interpretation. The message triumphed, right? But 3:55 says his message will triumph till the day of resurrection. So then, if Paul corrupted the message, that means the message got hijacked, Allah failed. So you're still stuck. Where's the message?
I see what you're saying. I understand. Sam, you are a book of knowledge. I mean,
Well, let me get you
I
this
wish
one.
I wish I was as fast as thinker and as knowledgeable on you on both religions.
All glory to Jesus. That's the true God who gives us his gifts so that people like you will find him and enjoy him and live forever. But here I want to give you this article so you can go read what the Muslim scholars said about Paul. Here it is. This is something in private chat. I'm sending it to you. Can you open it up and show him to see? Scholar after scholar said Paul was one of the messengers Allah sent with Peter and John and empowered to spread the message of Jesus, and Allah gave him victory. Muslim scholars, not me, Ibn Hajar Asqalani, Ibn Kathir, Al-Qurtubi, right there. And scroll down, show him how many sources.
Quite a bit.
Right? And then we quote them and give you the Arabic. Save it and go study. No, they'll hit a lot from you. Now, Lewis, you're a good man.
Quranic verses
you're very
about
humble.
Jesus'
and if you're
disciples.
humble, I promise you, it'll be a matter
Quran
of time.
3:55,
You'll come
Allah
back home to
promises
Jesus.
Jesus that his followers will be superior to those who reject faith until the day of resurrection. Quran 61:14, Allah empowers Jesus' followers, who prevail over disbelievers. Shamoun interprets these verses to mean that the original disciples of Jesus, as known from Christian tradition, were victorious and their teachings were preserved. He challenges the Muslim interlocutor to identify these disciples and reconcile this claim with Islamic beliefs. Historical and theological dilemma. Shamoun asserts that if the Quran is true, then the identity and teachings of Jesus' disciples must align with historical records. Since Christian traditions identify Peter, Paul, and others as central figures, and their teachings diverge significantly from Islam, this creates a contradiction for Muslims. He further claims that some Muslim sources, such as early Islamic texts, acknowledge figures like Peter and Paul as true followers of Jesus, yet their preserved writings, the New Testament, do not align with Islamic theology. Islamic sources supporting Shamoun's argument. Shamoun references early Islamic writings, such as Ibn Ishaq's Sirat Rasulullah, which mention the disciples and even Paul as followers of Jesus. He uses this to argue that Muslim sources indirectly validate Christian claims about the disciples' identity and mission. The Muslim response. The Muslim debater initially suggests that the followers could be all Muslims who came after Jesus or his immediate disciples, but struggles to provide specific names or reconcile their message with Islamic teachings. The interlocutor shifts the focus to potential issues in the Bible, such as alleged conflicts between Paul and Peter, but Shamoun counters this by referencing biblical passages that demonstrate unity among the apostles. Strengths of Shamoun's argument. Use of Quranic verses. By directly citing Quranic texts, Shamoun grounds his argument in the Islamic scripture, making it harder for his opponent to dismiss. Historical context. He appeals to historical and theological records, showing how the identity and teachings of Jesus' disciples are well documented in Christian tradition but incompatible with Islam. Islamic sources. His inclusion of early Islamic writings adds weight to his claim that even Islamic tradition partially supports the Christian view. Challenges for the Muslim debater. Lack of preparation. The Muslim participant admits to not being familiar with the argument and struggles to address it effectively. Ambiguity in Islamic tradition. The Quran and Hadith provide limited details about Jesus' disciples, leaving room for interpretation but also exposing gaps in the Islamic narrative. Contradictions. The acknowledgement of Paul and other apostles in some Islamic sources presents a challenge, as their teachings conflict with core Islamic doctrines. Critical observations. Shamoun's approach is assertive, and while it may be effective in exposing inconsistencies, it risks alienating the audience due to its confrontational tone. The Muslim debater's inability to address the core dilemma highlights a common issue in such debates: the reliance on general arguments without detailed knowledge of specific topics. The question of how Islamic theology reconciles the Quran's affirmation of Jesus' disciples with historical records remains a complex and unresolved issue in interfaith discussions. Conclusion. This debate showcases a classic interfaith dilemma, reconciling scriptural claims with historical evidence. Shamoun's Islamic Dilemma argument challenges Muslims to address gaps in their narrative about Jesus' disciples, while the Muslim participant struggles to provide a coherent response. This exchange underscores the importance of deep scriptural and historical knowledge in theological debates. That was an incredible and revealing debate. Shamoun's points clearly exposed a major flaw in the Quran, and it was fascinating to see the three Muslim debaters left without a response. But what do you think? Did Sam's argument stand up under scrutiny, or could the Muslim debaters have done more to defend their position? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop your comments below. If you enjoyed this powerful debate, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more thought-provoking discussions and debates. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video, where the search for truth continues.